A silver pickup vanished into the Pennsylvania woods, and so did the man driving it. No trace. No sound. Just a letter weeks later that would only deepen the mystery. True crime is often about what we know. But sometimes, the most haunting stories are built on what we don't. Today, we're diving into the chilling case of Clarence Biddle, a seasoned electrician, devoted husband, and avid outdoorsman, who set off on a solo hunting trip in 2012 and was never seen again. Was it a calculated escape? Or is something far darker hiding in those woods? Welcome to True Crime Story Archive, where real-life mysteries are preserved, explored, and told with the care they deserve. Let's begin. On the morning of October 12, 2012, in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, 42-year-old Clarence Biddle left his home just after 5 a.m. A journeyman electrician with nearly 20 years of experience, Clarence had spent much of his career working contract jobs at various power plants across the region. That Friday morning, he told his wife, Reeba, he was heading north to the Poconos for a solo hunting weekend, a tradition he had kept for years. According to Reeba, it was routine, same season, same truck, same quiet need for solitude. Clarence loaded up his silver 1999 Ford F-150, locked the shed behind the house, and drove off. It would be the last time anyone saw him alive. Reeba, 38 at the time, expected him home no later than Sunday evening, October 14th. When Monday came and went without word from Clarence, she filed a missing person report with the Susquehanna County Sheriff's Office. She told investigators Clarence had been under significant stress. Recent layoffs at the Montour power plant, where he was working on a temporary contract, had been weighing on him. Authorities initially treated the case as a likely wilderness disappearance. Clarence had said he'd be near a state-managed game reserve close to Weimart, a rugged area with vast woods and minimal ranger presence. Search and rescue teams scoured trailheads and hunting grounds. Cadaver dogs, aerial sweeps, nothing. Forest Ranger Thomas Ely told investigators there was no record of Clarence's vehicle entering the reserve. Hunters were required to log their vehicles in a handwritten gate book. Clarence's name and plate were missing. Wildlife cameras along trails and fire roads also failed to detect his truck or presence. With no sightings, no evidence, and no digital activity, Clarence's credit cards and phone were silent. The case hit a standstill. Then, in early November, Reeba received a letter postmarked from Buffalo, New York. Inside, a short, typed note, asterisk. I'm gone. I need peace. Don't look for me. Asterisk. It wasn't signed, but Reeba insisted the handwriting on the envelope matched her husband's. Authorities took it seriously. By December 2012, the case was reclassified as a voluntary disappearance. No charges. No suspects. No further searches. Clarence's file remained open but inactive. By May 2013, his profile was quietly removed from the National Crime Information Center's active registry. No activity on his social security number. No bank transactions. No utility changes. His union membership in IBW lapsed from unpaid dues. It was as if Clarence Biddle had slipped into thin air, his existence erased not by force, but by silence. The media never picked it up. There were no vigils. No national interest. Within the small town of Montrose, Clarence's disappearance became more of a whisper than a wound, a quiet man gone without a trace. And with no body, no leads, and no closure, it remains a cold case. From late 2013 through early 2020, the case of Clarence Biddle faded quietly into the background. No updates. No new leads. No renewed efforts by law enforcement. Just silence. But nearly 8 years later, it would be a routine traffic stop, over 200 miles from where Clarence was last seen, that would suddenly bring the case back into the spotlight. Back in March 2013, just 6 months after Clarence's disappearance, Reeba Biddle left their rural Susquehanna County home and relocated to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, roughly 40 miles south. The move coincided with her job transfer from the Montrose County Clerk's office to an administrative position at the Luzerne County Housing Authority. That same month, Reeba sold their house and initiated a claim on Clarence's $60,000 life insurance policy. Under a clause permitting payout after 180 days of verified absence, the policy was paid in full by April 2013. Even without a formal death declaration, the insurer accepted the police documentation and classified the disappearance as sufficient grounds. Reeba used the funds to settle household debts and declared the rest in her tax filings. Notably, she never applied for survivor benefits, nor sought a formal death certificate. Neighbors recalled her growing increasingly withdrawn after Clarence vanished. Some said she avoided eye contact. Others said she had stopped talking altogether. After moving, she quietly began using her maiden name, Reeba Holtz, in personal settings, though she never legally changed it or filed for divorce. In 2014, Reeba entered into a personal relationship with Randall Farrow, a former Luzerne County contractor with a modest criminal past, mostly for trespassing and minor property offenses. Farrow wasn't licensed for business and had a reputation for under-the-table work. By early 2015, he had moved into Reeba's apartment. No marriage license was ever filed, but by 2016, Farrow was listing her address as his legal residence. By 2018, she had added him as her emergency contact on official documents. That same year, she submitted a notarized affidavit stating Clarence was presumed deceased, allowing her to refinance a joint loan from 2009. Though no death certificate was provided, the bank accepted the claim, and Clarence's credit was marked inactive by early 2019. To the world, Clarence Biddle no longer existed. But one person wasn't ready to let go: his younger sister, Lisa Biddle, a registered nurse living in Scranton. Lisa had long suspected foul play and believed Clarence would never walk away from his life, especially without contacting her. She was convinced the mysterious letter from Buffalo was staged. From 2013 onward, Lisa made periodic inquiries, but got little back. In 2019, she hired a private data tracing firm to search for Clarence's truck, a silver 1999 Ford F-150 that had never been found. The firm scoured VIN databases across multiple states but turned up nothing. That changed on May 27, 2020. That afternoon, New York State troopers stopped a gray Ford F-150 outside Jamestown, about 100 miles from the Canadian border. The truck had expired Pennsylvania plates. The driver, a white male in his early 50s, claimed to be Daniel Marks, but couldn't produce ID or back up his story. The troopers ran the VIN, and it pinged. The truck was registered to none other than Clarence Biddle, who'd been missing since 2012. The driver was detained on suspicion of vehicle theft and false identification, and brought to the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office. Over 48 hours, the man refused to speak, sign forms, or name a next of kin. But a biometric scan told investigators who he really was. Randall Farrow, the same man who'd moved in with Reeba, shared her address, and been part of Clarence's post-disappearance life for years. Farrow had no active warrants, but once identified, he lawyered up and refused further questions. The vehicle was taken to a state forensic facility. Though it had been repainted a dull gray, the VIN confirmed its identity. The original license plates had been replaced with ones registered to a non-operational trailer owned by one of Farrow's deceased relatives. Investigators noted partially sanded serial numbers on the frame, an attempt, they believed, to hide the truck's true origins. Inside the truck, under the passenger seat, investigators made a chilling discovery: an aged leather wallet. Inside was Clarence Biddle's union card, a faded photo of Clarence and Reeba dated 2009, and a gasoline receipt, time-stamped October 13, 2012, from a gas station in Binghamton, New York. That receipt placed Clarence's truck, and likely Clarence himself, alive and mobile just one day after he was supposedly headed to the woods. The faded gas receipt from Binghamton, New York was more than just a piece of paper. It was the first confirmed physical link to Clarence Biddle since his disappearance. and it cracked open a case that had been cold for nearly a decade. New York State Police immediately alerted authorities in Pennsylvania. Soon, the Susquehanna County District Attorney's Office and Pennsylvania State Police were brought into the loop. With Clarence's truck recovered and Randall Farrow identified as the driver, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office officially reactivated Clarence's missing persons file, this time as part of a criminal investigation. What followed was a chain of discoveries that would unravel the carefully constructed lie that Clarence had walked away on his own. In early June 2020, during a search of Reeba Biddle's apartment, investigators recovered a locked metal filing box. Inside, they found financial records, insurance documents, and a collection of personal letters. Some were addressed to Lisa Biddle, Clarence's sister, but had never been sent. Others were handwritten drafts eerily similar to the mysterious note Reeba received in 2012, supposedly written by Clarence. One unfinished draft even contained the exact same phrase, asterisk, "I'm gone. I need peace. Don't look for me." Asterisk, the language matched the original letter almost perfectly, but this version bore sorting marks tied to the Wilkes-Barre post office, not Buffalo. And the most damning discovery? A brass key labeled simply, asterisk, shed, asterisk. Investigators turned their attention back to Clarence and Reeba's former home in Susquehanna County. With permission from the current owners, police accessed the backyard shed, which had been left largely untouched since the home's sale in 2013. There, behind a loosely secured panel in the shed wall, they discovered a hidden void, large enough to conceal a person. Luminol testing revealed blood spatter on the rear wall. A single strand of hair, later confirmed through mitochondrial DNA, belonged to Clarence. And discoloration on the floor suggested something, asterisk or someone asterisk, had once been wrapped and stored there. Near the back fence, they uncovered a shallow burial site. Inside a rusted metal box were Clarence's personal effects, his hunting license, worn work boots, and a broken wristwatch, none of which had ever been reported found by Reeba. Investigators no longer believed Clarence had left for a hunting trip. Their working theory shifted. Clarence Biddle had died, possibly murdered, asterisk asterisk, before he ever left the property, asterisk asterisk. On June 4, 2020, police arrested Reeba Biddle and Randall Farrow. Reeba was charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, insurance fraud, and destruction of evidence. Farrow faced charges of unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, tampering with physical evidence, and obstruction of justice. Neither made statements at the time of arrest. Reeba was denied bail. The trial began in January 2021. Prosecutors built their case around four pillars: the forged Buffalo letter, the forensic evidence in the shed, the inconsistencies in Reeba's timeline, and Farrow's possession of Clarence's truck. ADA Rachel Morrow described the case as a staged erasure, arguing that Reeba had lured Clarence into the shed and that the confrontation turned fatal. While the prosecution couldn't determine the exact cause of death, forensic testimony pointed to blunt trauma and an attempted cleanup. Financial records showed that by mid-2012, the Biddles were in deep debt. Testimony from coworkers revealed Reeba had spoken of feeling trapped and hinted at a secret relationship. That relationship, prosecutors argued, was with Randall Farrow. The infamous letter, once thought to be Clarence's final words, was exposed as a forgery. Handwriting and ink analysis matched the drafts found in Reeba's possession. The original was postmarked from Buffalo. One of the drafts was tied to a Luzerne County postmark. Randall remained silent throughout the trial. His defense argued that he had no involvement in Clarence's disappearance and was unaware the truck was tied to a missing person. Reeba's attorneys clung to the claim that Clarence left voluntarily, but the jury didn't buy it. On March 12, 2021, after 3 weeks of testimony and just 6 hours of deliberation, the verdicts came down. Reeba Biddle, guilty, on all counts. Randall Farrow, guilty, as an accessory to fraud and tampering with evidence. At sentencing, Judge Celia Horton delivered a sharp rebuke. This was a cold and calculated deception, rooted in selfish gain. A man's life was buried, so his killers could move on. Reeba received 25 years with no parole for 17. Randall was sentenced to 14 years. Still, without Clarence's body, no murder charge was ever filed. His remains have never been found. In June 2021, Clarence was legally declared deceased. A private memorial was held. In a powerful moment, his sister Lisa Bidd declared, "They buried the truth for 8 years, but now he gets his name back." In his honor, IBW Local 1249 helped establish a scholarship fund for second career electricians using the recovered insurance funds. Today, Reeba Bidd is incarcerated at SCI Muncie, and Randall Farrow serves time at SCI Benner Township. The two are legally forbidden from contacting one another. And Clarence's truck, the weathered 1999 Ford F-150, is still in state custody, silent and stripped of plates, but forever marked as the key that broke open the lie. His body has never been recovered. But the truth finally was. Justice doesn't always need a confession. Sometimes, the truth hides in rusted metal, forgotten letters, and stains no one expected to be found. If this case moved you, share your thoughts below. Do you believe there's more to the story? Make sure to subscribe to True Crime Story Archive, and hit the bell so you're first to know when the next mystery unfolds. Because the past isn't gone, it's just waiting to be told.